Okay, it's about 3 o'clock. It's time to come to order, I guess. Paula, you want to do roll call?
Matt Guillory.
Here.
Jorge Charnico.
Here.
Dylan Bradway.
Here.
Betsy Brunstetter. Donna Cervantes. Tyler Holmes.
Here.
Lee Peoples.
Here.
Ben Sellers. And James Varnum.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We have in our packet minutes from last month's meeting. If everyone's had a chance to look over those, is there anyone that has a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved from last month's meeting. Looks like we have a fairly light docket. No cases withdrawn. No continuance requests. Michael, do you want to talk us through the consent docket?
Well, it's continuance from the meeting we had last month on this item where we had some concerns about the westerly building, also known as Building C, and then some concerns that we raised at the meeting based on some information that was presented to the Commission at the meeting last month with regard to the retaining wall that adjacent to North Dewey Avenue. They were able to quickly respond to those concerns that were expressed at the meeting and submit revised plans to show changes to the to Building C and the retaining wall. And therefore, we've recommended approval under consent docket because it meets all the applicable standards and regulations.
Okay, and I apologize. I was unable to attend last month's meeting. I was out of town, so I'm going to have to defer. I was not part of the discussion last month, and it wasn't recorded, so I know very little about what was discussed. Does anybody have any comments about this or a motion? Do we need to approve the consent docket, right?
Yes. We need to make a motion to either pull it off the consent docket,
Yeah.
to take it under individual consideration, or to approve the consent docket.
So I would motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Chernico, second by Brunstetter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the consent docket is approved, and we move on to cases for individual consideration, of which there is only one this month. In the Plaza District, 1704 Northwest 16th Street. I believe we've all seen some additional comments that were passed and emails that we've gotten, and there were some packets on our desks here. Michael, you want to walk us through this one?
Yeah, I'll try to get the slides off. This is a project on the south side of Northwest 16th Street in the Plaza District, just west of North Blackwelder. It's a vacant suite that fronts on Northwest 16th. And here's some of the photos. This is the suite in question right here. This is immediately west of the site that we had last month with the proposal for the snow cone stand and the steel structure, just to the left of this car here in this photo. And then this is another shot. It's kind of the same, different perspective of the same frontage. These are some of the uses that are around the site, particularly on the north side of 16th, and then west of the subject property on the south side of 16th. We presented to you in the staff report a variety of concerns that we had with the proposal as submitted at the time of the writing of the report. However, you should have received an email yesterday, and then you have a hard copy version of that email from yesterday that shows some refreshed and revised versions of the same project with some changes that speak to a number of the concerns that we did raise in the staff report. First of all, we had spoke to a concern where the applicant had proposed either to not clad the walk-in cooler or to clad it. And we presented that as options 3A and 3B in your staff report. And in our recommendation, we suggested to the commission that the recommendation should be to approve it, with option 3B being that the 3B option was to clad the walk-in cooler. And I think that we had talked about doing that with the smooth fiber cement panels. The applicant has, in the submittal as of yesterday, come back with a version that does clad it, but primarily only on the west elevation with the material that is being used on the west wall of the addition, and continuing it on to the west side of the walk-in cooler. The other three sides, as I understand it, the north, east, and south side of the walk-in cooler would remain unclad and painted metal on the exterior of the walk-in cooler. Being that this is a pretty recent change, we haven't had much time to think through. I mean, we like the look of the proposal from the west side. I'm not sure that we're 100% behind not cladding the other three sides of the walk-in cooler. So that's something for the commission to take up with the applicant, I guess, to some extent. The second item we raised was concern over the use of CMU block or exposed CMU block to do the addition for the project. In the end, we ended up deciding that it might be acceptable because there are a few buildings there within the Plaza District that have been built with exposed or painted concrete block, and we recommended that, and we also noted that there was a recent approval late last year that involved the use of split-face concrete block, also on the south side of 16th, but west of Indiana. So in our conclusion, we did recommend approval of that. At this point, with yesterday's email, it looks like there's going to be a proposal to screen it with, to clad it with something else, some other material that we were unfortunately unable to open the attachment that we got this morning to look at that material, so we don't really have a good sample of that to give you. And then thirdly, we raised a concern with respect to the proposed enclosed patio area at the front of the building. And the concern we had with that was twofold. One, it blocked off visually the front door to the space, which is something we're trying to address with pedestrian activity and so on and so forth, and connectivity. And we wanted to make sure, and even though you can get to that door with the original plan, it's kind of a circuitous route, and you're kind of left trying to find your way to that opening. And we also had a concern about it extending east of the east property line of the project, because it basically encroaches in front of another piece of property and we were going to leave that, though, to the experts in development services, who are the ones who approved the revocable permit that would have allowed that enclosure in the first place, and they would have determined whether that was acceptable or not. However, I think, at least partly in response to our comments and concerns we expressed in the staff report, the applicant in his submittal yesterday did change the design of this patio enclosure on the frontage on 16th Street to both pull it back from the east side so it lines up with the east property line, and to create that opening in the front of the enclosure that would align with the front door. And that should be if you had a chance to review the email, you should have seen that yesterday. If you didn't have a chance to see the email, it should be in the hard copy versions of the plans you have in front of you today at the dais. The other big change that we did not have a concern about, but apparently there were some fire code issues with, was the introduction of a new door there on the east elevation of the front of the building, right there. And due to concerns related to the fire code, they have opted to leave this wall alone and have only the front door over here on the front. And you'll note that in the hard copy plans you have in front of you today. So in summation, we were recommending approval. We did have a condition of approval that talked about breaking up that patio screen, which they've done in the revised plans. Our recommendation also included an option that the walk-in cooler be clad on all four sides. That is not the case, and again, we're willing to let the commission hash that out with the applicant to determine whether or not what they're proposing is acceptable or not. So in conclusion, we are still recommending approval because the project has been revised to address a number of the concerns that we had in the staff report, and we're prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
And real quickly, just for the sake of clarity, I had gone through the staff report and then gone through the new submittals that came through this morning and yesterday. It appears that pretty much everything in the staff report was addressed except the cladding of the walk-in, right?
Yeah, our biggest concerns were the material for the addition and the cladding for the walk-in and the screened-in patio. They've addressed the screened-in patio. I believe they've addressed the material for the addition. And then again, they have cladded the west side, and it's really a matter of whether or not the commission thinks that's sufficient to screen it, or whether it should also be screened on the interior of the screened-in area.
Okay, so the west side is the one visible from the exterior, and the three sides that are not going to be is more, I mean, it's not interior space because it's patio, but it's more private.
Yeah, it's the west side here that would be open to view from the outside of the building. It's a limited view from the street because it's kind of like it's a very small enclave of a few parking stalls perhaps that is accessed off of Gatewood, and the view is quite limited. It's a very small window to see that wall. But however, we were talking in our staff report about cladding the entire structure because we feel it's important to not look at painted metal of that exterior of that facility from the inside of the use as well, whether it's seating outdoors next to it or what have you. So our position was that we should screen all four sides, as we have typically done with any walk-in cooler that has come in for an addition on a project, where we typically, whatever size of the walk-in cooler that are exposed, we typically ask that they be clad in something to screen it.
Okay. We'll hear from the applicant.
Hi. Hopefully, is this on? Hopefully it's not too confusing. I apologize for the late submittal, and thank you, Michael, for wading through all of that. We made some last-minute changes there, so hopefully they addressed, as Michael said, the concerns he had. The biggest one seems to be, what I'm hearing, is the walk-in cooler. Michael, do you happen to have that?
Ken, just
We
introduce
don't have
yourself,
any
too.
of the stuff that you gave us yesterday on the screen.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
but they do have hard copies in front of them.
Okay, perfect. I've got a thumb drive.
Oh, you do?
If that
Oh,
works.
I'm sorry.
Can you
Plus,
introduce
we did.
yourself for the
Oh, I'm sorry.
record,
Yeah,
too,
I'm Ken
please?
Simmons, and I'm with Task Design, the architect on the project.
Okay, thank you.
What I was going to say is that the walk-in cooler with the wall, it's on the west side, is stretched about. Thanks. There we go. So it's stretched about 5 feet south of the walk-in cooler, the wall that we're talking about. And I really don't think you're going to be able to see the walk-in cooler within the court area. Certainly you won't see it from the street, but you would have to basically go through that gate, I think, to be able to see this, because that screen that we're proposing there that you have the cursor upon, that's going to be a 6-foot tall screen is what we're proposing, so average height person would even have the eyesight to look over that. So we feel like it's, and there you go, that's what it would look like from the inside. So it's really a view to folks on the interior, and one of the thoughts is that, you know, we might, Strubles here have talked about maybe opening up part of this project, as you've seen on the slide previous to that, about maybe doing a living mural like has been done in other parts of the Plaza District. So, you know, there might be some consideration for making the walk-in cooler a mural as well on the inside.
On the metal coolers itself?
Correct, on the inside and potentially on the exterior side. It's just something we wanted to bring to your attention. That would have to be a whole nother process to get the mural approved, but that is an idea that's out there right now. And so we feel like between that and adding this extra cladding, that it's certainly in line with other projects in there. And it should also, I'd also like to point out that there's several other projects or existing buildings within this courtyard that currently are just bare CMU and things of that nature. So we feel like this is at least as nice or nicer than what's there now, as far as the finished materials.
If I could chime in, that courtyard is very underutilized. It's just mainly parking, and nobody really goes.
Is everyone familiar with the courtyard? Or it's really an interior parking lot is more the way I look at it.
Yeah,
but-
and this site plan shows it pretty well. The limited view that Michael's talking about, you really have to walk off the street and walk back in there about 20 feet to even see this addition.
Just out of curiosity, the cladding of the walk-in, is it strictly an aesthetic thing, or is there any energy efficiency aspects to cladding it or not cladding it?
Well, there may be some in the sense that I don't think we've talked about insulating that particular wall, but insulation is dead air space, and it would be a stud wall, so it'd be some form of shade, if you will, before direct sun hits the walk-in. So that would certainly help it, yes. And that's one of the reasons also we switched from CMU to the fiber cement. You know, we didn't want to build out a wall on the interior of the CMU, and we just thought, you know, let's just do this as a stud wall and do insulation, and so that was one of the considerations as well.
Okay. And that's mostly just my own curiosity.
Sure.
We have questions, comments?
On the walk-in, is that teal color? Is that like a proposed just base coat?
It's just a placeholder. None of these
Yeah.
colors are meant for anything at this point necessarily. You know, my understanding is that colors aren't necessarily something that's under the UDC review, so we didn't really get as serious about that just yet. It's just an idea of what it might be. The notion's been that Yoke Restaurant might be you know, it's going to be a breakfast place, and so the orange color you see there might be, you know, kind of like orange juice or sunrise or something along those lines for fun, brighten it up a little bit.
And that orange color, what is that material?
That's also fiber cement.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When I look at the floor plan, the cold box seems to be proud of the fence directly adjacent to it.
Which part, I'm sorry?
When I look at the floor plan, the walk-in cooler seems to be in front of the fence
Stick out a little.
rather than
It
than
was in the
line.
original version because we wanted the fence to terminate on either side, so it read like an object. In this case, we've changed it so that the plane of the building extends out and becomes part of the walk-in cooler facade. So it's all on the same plane now.
Well, it seems to me that the people you're most concerned about seeing the exposed metal would be the patrons of the restaurant.
They're the
And
ones that
so-
would see it, right?
I'd like to, if I could, make a motion to approve.
Does anybody else have more comments or questions?
I like the idea of the.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I like the idea of the potential artwork in the
I do
courtyard.
too.
Empire's been doing that and has really done a great job at it as well.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then Brunstetter has a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, before the vote, I want to make sure the commission would delete item 1C from your motion because it's a wall that is now not going to be touched.
All right, what was that again? 1C?
1C is talking about the removal of the window and the wall below the transom on the east elevation at the front of the building and replacing with a storefront glazing system.
Okay.
This new proposal that we received yesterday does not include that improvement.
I'll restate my motion.
So the motion will be restated to reflect the changes that have been made since we received our packets in the mail.
Okay, Michael, I need some help with this. There are two options under landscaping site improvements: install walk-in cooler with no cladding, or install walk-in cooler with smooth fiber cement cladding. There's actually a third option. It's
Right, you're going to
partial.
have to make that third option clear in your motion.
Okay, so move approval with striking item 1C, because they're not putting the window on the side wall anymore, or the entry door, and including installing the cooler with smooth fiber cement board cladding on the west side only, extending beyond. Thanks.
Does that cover everything, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Dylan, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is it for individual consideration cases. Other business, we have listed none. Is that still the case?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, communications?
We just have a few cases to report on our activity on administrative approvals in the last month. There's two revisions that were approved on the north side of Northwest 16th Plaza District, and then also a paint job and exterior remodel of KFC restaurant existing at the west end of 23rd Street past Penn.
Any questions? All right. The second issue under communications is the Board of Adjustment.
Yes, we wanted to inform the commission that we have had an appeal filed against UDCA 16-00016, which was approved by the commission at the May meeting, and that was for the steel shipping container that was approved at the southwest corner of North Blackwelder and Northwest 16th Street. That appeal is, at this point, scheduled to be heard by the Board of Adjustment on the July 7th meeting. So we'll report back to you at your July meeting and what the outcome of that meeting was.
Comments from staff?
We don't have anything for you today.
Okay. Any commissioners have comments or questions? All right. Next meeting is July 27th. And with that, this was short and sweet. We're adjourned.